Alright, welcome to your video lecture on erosion. We're going to zoom through this because we've already done these notes. We're going to our erosion notes, please. They look like this. Here's what we've got to talk about. So we're talking about erosion and deposition today. So erosion is the carrying away of weathered material. So remember yesterday we talked about there are two types of weathering, chemical or physical. Chemical changes the composition of the rock as it breaks it into little pieces. And physical just breaks the rock into smaller pieces and doesn't change anything about the rock except the size. It gets smaller. The end results of both types of weathering are sediments. Now, what happens with those sediments? They are eroded or moved away. So erosion is the carrying. Let's indicate in some way that carrying is very important here. Erosion can happen really quickly, like the erosion we see or the movement of sediments in landslides or flooding. And this can happen in minutes or even seconds. Landslides and mudslides, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, those can happen in the blink of an eye. And they're pretty dangerous, but it is the sediments moving from one place to another. Or they can take a really long time, like what happened in our Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon formed from erosion by the Colorado River. This took about 6 million years, which is a pretty long time if you ask me. So erosion can be both quick and fast. It just depends on the conditions of where we find our sediments and the conditions of the area around it. There are 4 types of erosion, or 4 causes of erosion. The first one is wind. And if you can see this on a rainy day, especially here at Emery where we have all this open ground because we're developing buildings, so you can see the sediments moved by the wind from one place to another. You can experience this too if you've ever been on the beach or in an area that has a lot of dirt. On a really windy day, you can feel those dirt particles or that sediment hitting you. That's one way or one method of erosion. The wind can do it. The water can do it too. The water can erode away or move sediments from one place to another. We've seen this in a river. We talked about this happening in the hydrosphere unit when we talked about how quickly, depending on what side of the river you're on, our banks can be eroded. Water can erode away our sediments in a river. Water can erode away sediments in a hurricane or move sediments from one place to another. We talked about that relationship between how fast a stream is going and how much sediment it can carry. We learned that the faster the stream goes, the more sediment it can carry. Another simple factor of erosion or a cause of erosion is gravity. So just simply falling, our sediments can fall because of the gravity and the potential energy. And our last one is ice. As we study glaciers, you will learn that our big masses of moving ice can pick up sediments and move them from one place to another if the glacier is moving. That's how we get a lot of our deposition of sediments up in the colder regions. Okay, so erosion, again, is the carrying. On the other hand, deposition is the dropping. So combine our D's here. The dropping of weathered material in a new location. So it's dropped. Deposition is dropping, depositing. Deposition builds land, it's constructive. Erosion destroys land, it's destructive. Some examples of deposition are our beaches when the water pushes the sand up. And if you're online with me, please try to create, at the very least, you better be typing these words into the boxes. You might need to make your own text box. If you can try and draw this, that would be awesome. So our beaches can take sediment from here and drop it on the beach or sand. The cause of erosion would be water here. And then as it erodes, the water erodes the sediment towards the beach. When it stops and drops, that's now deposition. Sand can be deposited in dunes the method of erosion. These two often go together. That's why we're learning about them together. Something picks up the sediments, and then something drops the sediments. So in this case, the wind picked up the sand particles, and it dropped them in the dune shape. So the sand particles might come and be bombarded right here. So my mouse is a sand particle. It comes, and the wind is blowing it, it's carrying it, and all of a sudden, bam, it hits there, and it can't go any further, so it just sits right there. And then pretty soon more come, and more and more and more, and then eventually that's how we get the dune. And then our deltas are also an example of deposition. Deltas are sand plus dirt piled up at the mouth or the end of the river. This is my delta right here. So you can see, remember we talked about as the river is moving really, really quickly, it has sediments, and then when it hits the end or the mouth of the river, it often slows down, so it drops the sediments right there, it deposits them right there, and that's how we get our deltas. Okay, that's the end of your notes. Pretty simple today, just a couple things. If you have any questions, please email me and I will get those answered for you. Have a great day.